Quick video on long-term calorie restriction. We've had a lot of questions in the 6Fit coaching group about the effects of long-term calorie restriction, how to mitigate that and what to do long-term if you're looking at losing body fat and looking better over the long term. So first things first is any kind of calorie restriction should never be drastic and should never be under 30% of your maintenance calories. Okay, so if you've got somebody whose maintenance calories is 2,000, for example, no matter how fast you wanted to lose that weight, never drop more than 30% of those maintenance calories. So somebody at 2,000 maintenance calories would never ever look at going below 1,400. And I personally would never put somebody on such an aggressive deficit because the performance cost in terms of mental and physical performance, it's just not worth it. You can do it longer term in a better way. So other factors to consider is long-term calorie restriction can reduce testosterone, estrogen in ladies, and effects of that, you can look at bone density loss, you can look at muscle mass decreases, strength decreases, libido decreases, and you don't want any of that if you're looking to be long-term healthy and prospering, getting results, trying to lose body fat. Other things to consider is as well, if you aren't strength training in a calorie deficit, you will lose muscle tissue, and we don't want to lose lean mass whatsoever. We want to keep metabolism as high as we can and our lean tissue percentage as high as possible. So you've got to strength train in a calorie deficit. Other things that can happen is over long-term calorie deficits, your leptin and ghrelin balance can change. So these are your hunger hormones. We don't want ghrelin to increase too high because you're hungry all the time. And if you have long-term calorie deficits, you can increase ghrelin levels, it's been shown, which means you can be hungrier and hungrier and hungrier, which is not sustainable. So again, long-term, not necessarily a great thing to look at. We can also slow down T3 thyroid production, which if we're looking at burning body fat and losing weight, we don't want to decrease thyroid production over time. So again, that's another negative part of long-term calorie restriction, okay? Things we need to think about is, if you've been on a calorie deficit for at least 6 weeks, there's two things you can do. You can reverse diet slowly, where you look at on a weekly basis, adding 50 to 150-ish calories per week back up to a maintenance level. And that'll happen over a few weeks. But sometimes if you're feeling pretty low, your energy levels are low, and you want to get back to maintenance quickly, there's nothing wrong with going back from a deficit to maintenance almost straight away. Bear in mind though, you will hold a bit of water, glycogen in the muscle, so you might show a pound or two of weight on the scales, but don't worry, if you've gone back to maintenance, you haven't suddenly increased body fat levels. It's just glycogen and water in muscle. So don't worry about that too much. So like I said, you can reverse diet over a few weeks, back to maintenance, or you can go straight to maintenance, and it's your choice which way you want to do that. But after 6 weeks of a calorie restriction, for most people, because we're going to do this in cycles, that's what you want to do. Bodybuilders, physique competitors, I've had people on calorie restriction for up to 16 weeks, but that is because they're getting on stage and will just have minor little calorie spikes along that 16-week journey. But for most people in a gym, if you're doing a 6-week calorie deficit, you'd want to then, for the next 2 to 4 weeks, I would say, go back up to maintenance or even 5% above maintenance before you do your next calorie drop for your next 6-week block. So you're doing these in blocks and you're not staying on anything permanently long term. Remember that. Things to consider as well, and remember this, when you are on a calorie deficit, you must strength train to preserve lean muscle tissue. So 3 to 4 times a week you should be lifting and trying to get stronger all the time. We're not doing 20-30 rep light weights because we're on a calorie deficit. We're still 5 to 12 reps. We're trying to get stronger as we go week by week. Things as well you want to think about as well is that protein intake while you're on a calorie deficit. 1.6 grams to 2.2 grams per kg body weight within a calorie deficit alongside your strength training, because we're looking to drop fat, not muscle. So we're trying to retain muscle with that strength training, okay? So a few little things there to consider. So like I said, At the end of a 6-week typical calorie restriction block, when you're in a deficit, never below 30% of your maintenance. Remember that key point. And then we're going to either reverse diet slowly to maintenance, adding calories in every week, or going straight back up to a maintenance calorie level for 2 to 4 weeks. But you will get that pound or two of water, glycogen weight on the scales. So bear those things in mind, because we don't want these hormonal cascade problems and issues around obsessions with foods if you stay on restriction for too long. So after 6 weeks, maintenance, before you want to consider going back into another calorie deficit. Hope that helps.